I know we have lots of questions and things to talk about, but hold them, write them down, because we have one more speaker, Catherine Lockman, who's the Director of Organizational Development for Global Peace Foundation. She goes by Kat, but here she is. And then we'll go into questions and answers.
Thanks everyone very much for having me at this panel today. I'm very honored to be here with all of you. The focus of my comments are to tease out the importance of teacher professional development within the lessons that I've learned in program design and evaluation of solutions geared towards workforce development, all within the context of very pragmatic transformation of educational models as an antidote to youth unemployment. I won't go on about the challenge of youth unemployment because I know in this room today we're all aware of the staggering statistics and how much the urgency of this crisis translates into difficult and sometimes even violent social conflicts and challenges. I personally see the antidote to that kind of conflict and violence in the promise of educating and empowering youth. And I think that that's how we together can build peace and shared success in the next generation. So first, I suggest to you that we look at the educational system for what it truly is. It's workforce development. And that applies to a traditional model of primary, secondary, and university education, and also to job training and vocational education programs. In all of these approaches, the ultimate goal is to enable students to become contributing citizens by joining the workforce and enjoying a productive life. We all want that, whether we are employees or business owners. We all want to be productive. And character education helps us to do just that by recognizing and validating that education systems need to empower students beyond academic achievement, and that we must transcend valuing education based only on test scores. What often goes underfunded or underappreciated is how much we need to empower teachers. Teachers around the world, from young students in teaching colleges, in teacher education programs, who are at the beginning of their careers, as well as those who have already spent years in the classrooms. They need the resources and the validation to teach skills beyond test preparation, and for themselves not to be constrained only to teach to a test. Teaching to tests has stripped students of too many opportunities to shine and shuts out youth who need to develop skills beyond academic performance to finding success. And as a consequence, sometimes not being able to find or retain jobs, because that is a response to employer needs. I'm going to speak a little bit from my personal experience in the field, both in the US as a program design and evaluation expert, and also in international education program development. And I'll share a couple quick case studies with you, and also a hot new idea about pop-up schools that are getting a lot of attention right now. And then tell you how Global Peace Foundation's Lead-In Character and Creativity Initiative has responded to this challenge with CCI 2.0. Detroit, where I'm originally from, has been a case study. Historically, Detroit was known for race riots, burning of the city, and sometimes even calling in the military. As a result, what we had there was multi-generational, very, very concentrated poverty in an urban setting. And in working with a population like that, some of the best minds thought that what we needed was to help people take advantage of educational opportunities as a pathway out of poverty and into productive, successful careers. And we thought that the most significant challenge for youth was to graduate from school to work and professional training programs, including degree programs, and help them get jobs. So we did that. We educated people. We helped them find jobs. And we did it by partnering with local universities, employers, institutional foundations like the Ford and McGregor Foundations. And we saw the investment of millions of dollars with an overall vision of transforming a culture of poverty and shifting to work readiness and academic qualifications. We thought that academic and technical education programs and coupling that with those kinds of social support services that we saw needed would be the answer. And to put that program into context for you, we were spending about $20 million US a year from government and private funding. And here's what we found. We ran the program, we educated people, we found that our graduates outperformed on technical and academic knowledge, and that partnerships with employers and by doing outreach for job placement, we placed people in jobs. But 12 to 24 months after that initial job placement, we had embarrassingly high numbers of graduates that failed to retain the jobs. And we asked why. Why was this happening? And we did direct interviews with employers and saw a trend. The trend was that our graduates were lacking in character and creativity. They lacked soft skills and teamwork and in proper decision making. They were making poor decisions about how to use employer resources and having difficulty with social skills in a new business culture that they were unfamiliar with. The resounding feedback proved that we were achieving academic and technical knowledge, and that wasn't the issue. But the issue was that we were not doing character education, and this was in 2001. We didn't know that we weren't doing it. That was a real opportunity to take a nationally known workforce development program and make it a leader in evaluation and outcomes measurements beyond graduation and initial job placement and academic performance. There were very few organizations at that time doing that kind of evaluation, but we wanted to do it because we were not just aiming for education outcomes or outputs. We were aiming to transform a culture, which is what character education is aiming to do. The lesson in Detroit that I saw there was that all the best planning, thinking, and initial outcomes could not overcome that lack of character education. We weren't teaching it, but we got the message. It needed to be taught, and it needed to be taught by teachers, not employers, because employers wouldn't teach that. They would just move on to the next employee. So that was what happened there. In another school to work state level initiative I was involved in, we looked at best practices in K through 12 in primary and secondary school with the Annie Casey Foundation, which was known for doing this type of evaluation study, especially around best practices and outcomes. And I led the outreach in that study to primary schools. And my aha moment, what became apparent to me, was that student learning was directly impacted by teacher knowledge. And I know that seems really, really obvious, but teachers can only teach what they know or what they themselves have learned. And if they are constrained to push to teach to a standardized test, then they prioritize only teaching the knowledge that is required to perform on standardized tests. So those were two examples to me that illustrated the importance of character education and also the importance of investing in teachers. And I know there are so many more, but those are the ones that come to my mind. And then just bubbling up on to the surface last night, I noticed an article in Wired magazine about pop-up schools in Kenya. And they were touting these as something with the potential to transform global education. So of course I had to read that. And what I saw was that bridge academies have now opened up many of these school-in-a-boxes over the last 4 years in Kenya, and that this organization's CEO, Jay Kimmelman, is a former Silicon Valley entrepreneur. He's their CEO. And he compares this educational organization to Starbucks or McDonald's in that it's going to offer a consistent experience no matter where in the world you encounter this school in a box. But here's the important part. They invested $15 million prior to starting these really, really low-tech schools. They're not fancy. They're in corrugated metal buildings with a plywood frame, and there's no fancy technology at all. It's often even not electricity. Many of them are in rural areas. But they brought Bill Gates on board as an investor and other venture capitalists, and $15 million is a lot of money to spend on R&D for piloting a new school program, just in the R&D, not even in physical structure or technology. And I, of course, wanted to know what they spent the $15 million on, and the answer was that the majority, a huge piece of the money, was on teacher training and teaching best practices to teachers. And they went on a lot about moving from rote memorization and regurgitation to adaptive learning. And that, to me, just that focus on teacher education was really amazing. And the reason I point this out to you is because we are not the only people saying invest in teachers. It's crucial. It's more than a computer. It's more important than the fancy building. It's the core of transforming the model of education that we know. I've worked alongside Dr. Tony Devine to put teachers at the forefront of the Global Peace Foundation's Lead in Character and Creativity Initiative program development, as we've worked to scale that up to CCI 2.0. This is a program that I know many of you are familiar with, having gone to the summit earlier this week. I personally think that we have demonstrated the kind of global leadership in pioneering a new intervention to address a core issue, which is youth readiness for employment, one that transcends grade point averages to include character competencies and creativity. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm just going to zoom up to what I think is most important about CCI 2.0. It is the 4 programmatic pillars that we've developed and are implementing broadly. And they are, the first being the obvious 5-year plan for school expansion and onboarding of the program, with new schools tiered for investment. Number 2 being teaching best practices from the global education movement to local teachers, just like this social innovation model of school in a boxes. I don't know that we're spending $15 million to teach the best practices in the R&D phase, but teaching them is a priority. And also in best practices, monitoring what's happening inside the classroom to see the number of teachers in the program and who's implementing the best practices from our global knowledge base, and also sharing their own local best practices throughout our global network. The third pillar is an incredibly robust teacher training and professional development program. This is a core expense and a really multi-layered aspect of the program, and in every country that we will implement in, that teacher training is a really big chunk of the budget. It starts out with engaging university-level teaching colleges and training some of their professors in character and creativity, and also engaging college students in teaching the program. We then move to placing those future teachers as interns in participating schools, and also investing in the professional development of current teachers, both in larger conference-style training sessions like we saw here in the Philippines, and in ongoing in-school professional development, along with continued cultivation and outreach from our professional staff to the schools. This is a really significant ongoing investment. It's not something where we just parachute in, do a training, and then leave. It's ongoing because it's that significant to us, and we see it as that big of a piece of the model of transformation. The fourth pillar of the program is creating a culture of learning in the community. And this is by engaging stakeholders, including employers, parents, community, faith leaders, and educators, as well as the ministries of education and other officials. And why is that? I mean, we know why it resonates with us, but it's also to help share the message with parents that if they want youth to join the workforce, we want them to hear directly from employers that their kids need to have skills beyond test performance. And we want them to hear from teachers about how best practices in professional development have transformed their teaching. So that they understand why we're investing so much in teachers, and from students about how they have personally experienced transformation and spread their own wings beyond test scores. So I feel that this is an approach that empowers teachers at the core of the program and transforms an educational model. It demonstrates an approach to governments of something that works and holds the promise of transforming a crisis in youth employment into an opportunity for youth to develop as whole people who are productive and valued so that they can join the workforce and also create it for themselves through character and creativity. Finally, I see the bottom line as teachers being the core transformers of our culture, and that investing in them to teach beyond test scores is how we can transform the educational model through character and creativity and truly transform not only the educational model, but move away from conflict towards peace.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
That was very enlightening.
Thanks.
School in a box. Ooh, goodness. I can imagine that debate.